You are a cultural pioneer, or as I'd like to say, a culture-neer. You're daring to go where others aren't willing to go. The unknown doesn't scare you, it intrigues you. You're not satisfied with the status quo. Business as usual is not in your DNA. You're done with doing the same thing and expecting a different result. You're an explorer at heart and a trendsetter by nature. You were born with purpose, called to lead, destined to make a difference. You are a Culture-Neer. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Culture-Neer Podcast. I'm your host, Gwaltney. Man, I'm excited today, excited every week. But today, I want to talk to you about the blueprint for a thriving culture. And of course, I get all jazzed up anytime we start talking about culture. But today, we're really going to talk about the importance of planning. You know, I think for some of us, we're action oriented. We're going to get it done. Show me the mountain. I'll claim it. I'll climb it. I'll charge it. And then sometimes we sit back and think, man, if I'd had a better plan, this wouldn't have been so hard. And so I want to talk to you about the planning today. Listen to this. A great culture doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of intentional planning and consistent execution. That's a direct quote out of a book, Culture-Neer. A great culture doesn't happen by chance. It's a result of intentional planning and consistent execution. And those words, they really go hand in hand. They're like two sides of a coin. I need to have the plan, and then I need to consistently be able to execute. Some people have an idea, but they can never launch it. Some people can get things done, but they haven't had an idea since 1982. When you marry those two things together, though, you can accomplish some things. And that's part of the key of being successful in business or in any nonprofit organization. You have to have the ability to be able to do both. And so let's get real. Too many leaders believe that their culture just kind of happens. If you hire good people, if you work hard, the reality is that's just simply not true. Not good culture anyway. Culture's built by, it's almost like brick by brick. It's decision by decision. And the mortar that's holding all that together, that's planning. And so for some of us, we need to be better planners because we need to be more proactive than to be reactive. If you live your life in a reactive mode, if you manage your organization in a reactive mode, your calendar is going to own you. The situations are going to dictate you. It's going to affect you mentally, emotionally. It's going to affect your team. But if you can live your life proactively, it's like you take control of that. You're back to leading it. You're in charge. You're setting the course. You're setting the direction that you're headed. Have you ever been and woke up in one of those days and it's like, I don't know what I got done today, but I'm exhausted and I have so much more to do tomorrow? Well, you probably lived your day reactionary. You ran to every fire, every crisis. You drifted off. You didn't really have a plan. You were busy. Well, busy work doesn't necessarily mean, and it doesn't necessarily equate to being productive. So you need to have a plan. So planning is really how we bring the future into today's conversations, into today's meetings, into today's decisions. It's how we make sure that we don't just drift, but we move with purpose. We need to be intentional about our actions. You need to be intentional about fulfilling your vision. You need to be intentional about how you're executing on your mission and your mission statement. Otherwise, you just start drifting. And then you end up wondering, how did I get here? It's because you drifted. We have a boat, and there's been times where we will stay overnight on the boat. And if you're not anchored down in the boat, you can wake up the next morning 8 hours later and like, where am I? You're still on the water, but you don't recognize your surroundings because you drifted. Why did you drift? Because your anchor didn't hold you in place. When we're talking about planning and we're talking about culture, it's you're predetermining where you want to end up, what those circumstances should look like, what the environment, what you hope for it to be. That's your vision. Well, you get there decision by decision, but that decision is based on proper planning and then execution. That's the importance of this. You don't just drift. You have to move with purpose if you're going to accomplish anything that's memorable, anything that's rewarding, and really anything that means anything over any period of time. So if you don't define the road, You can't be surprised when your team ends up in the wrong place. Do I need to repeat that? I think there's some ownership for us in that statement. If you don't define the road, then you can't be surprised when your team ends up in the wrong place. You are the architect of the future of your organization, and it starts in the theater of your mind. But if that's the only place it ever lives, and you never invite people in to help you plan, and you never get that on a piece of paper where you have a plan to be able to execute that, it'll be like all those other great ideas you had when you were in the shower. Like many people in America have today. They have an idea and they still end up living their life with more week than what they have paycheck because they don't have a plan and they don't execute on it. And so nothing ever changes. So there's an advantage in clarity, the clarity advantage. I like what Mark Miller, he has this statement, and I love this. Let me repeat it. It says, clarity is the starting point of all high performance. Clarity is the starting point of all high performance. See, when we're talking about planning, what we're really talking about is clarity. See, clarity answers questions before they become problems. Proactive. You don't have clarity, you spend all your time answering problems. If you have clarity, it answers the questions before they become problems. Big difference. Questions like, where are we going? Why are we going there? What are we going to do if we hit a bump? When we hit a bump, not if we hit a bump. Guys, there's all kinds of bumps in what we do. We don't get any of this right. There's always things that we don't plan for. So what are we going to do when we hit that? Clarity answers those questions before they become problems. So then I can proactively deal with a situation instead of like, oh, what the heck am I going to do with this? Well, you knew there was potentially going to be a challenge. You just didn't know when it was going to come. But if you plan for it and you have clarity, you know how you're going to act in that moment. It also gives you a lot of confidence with your team because they feel like I can trust the leader because he looked out ahead, and he's navigating us through this tough storm. Super important. So a strong plan, it's like a compass. It gives your people confidence because they tend to know what's coming. They know where they fit in. This is super important. They know what's expected. So you want to have that clarity. And here's the truth. Confusion is what kills momentum in an organization. Clarity, that's what ignites it. So ask yourself the question, are you living in confusion? You have a momentum problem? You have an engagement problem? Maybe you need to have some more clarity. Clarity will kind of ignite that fire amongst everybody. Now, I'm going to give you some keys to some real effective planning because I always want, when we have spend a few minutes together, that like you feel like there's an action plan, I can walk away and apply that. Otherwise, this is a waste of my time and yours. So let's break this down into some actionable steps. Where do I start? Start with vision. Every plan begins with a clear and a compelling vision. Vision becomes your North Star. It's what pulls you forward when challenges hit. As long as I can see a future that's better than the struggle in the present circumstance, it gives me the hope and inspires me to push through the hard moments. When I don't have that, it's real easy to get discouraged. It's real easy to become pessimistic. It's real easy to become negative. It's real easy to have the life sapped out of you. Really difficult to lead if you're in that state. There's going to be enough people around you that are leading that tend to fall in that ditch. And they're looking to you to keep them out of it. And they're looking to you to pull them up when they do get in it. So you need to be able to lead from that. So it starts with vision. Ask yourself this. If we succeed like wildly, what does that look like? Paint that picture in vivid detail so your people see it, so they feel it, so they believe it. That's the great thing I think about leadership is you've been entrusted, and I'm a person of faith. So for me, everything I do is centered in my walk in my faith. And so I believe I have a responsibility that when God puts something on the inside of me about what I'm supposed to do in the future, that it's on me now to distill that down in a way that I can paint a picture for those people that are on my team that are going to help me achieve that, and they're going to go there with me. That's on me to figure out a way that they understand what that looks like, that it excites them. And that vision, if I'm the head of this organization, that dream and that vision should be so big that their individual dreams and visions can fit inside of that. Because if what they're good at and what they're passionate about fits inside this bigger vision, we all win. I can't do that without them. If your dream is so small you can do it on your own, that's not really a dream. But when you have a dream, I mean, it's God-sized. In other words, it's bigger than what you can do on your own, so it requires a team around you. And so when you're building that and you're casting that vision, you need them to help you get to where you're called to go. But in the middle of that, never forget, find out a way to where their passion, their dream, and their vision can live inside of that as well. Because then it fuels them with fulfillment. I'm doing what I was called to do, what I was created to do. I'm making a difference. What I do matters. It's on you to learn how to paint that picture in such vivid detail they can see it. See, I think as a visionary, you see things that other people only look at. You ever watched any of those television shows on HGTV and somebody walks up to this just house? It looks like a pile of crap. And their response is not like, hey, tear this down. It's like, oh, this is a great opportunity. I love finding these houses that are infested with mold and the yards are overgrown, because I can buy them for pennies on the dollar, because everybody else looks at it and says, we need to tear that down. And that's too much money to pay for a lot. And then I have to build a new house. But those people see, no, I can gut the inside of the house and do some landscaping on the outside, and I can flip this thing and make twice the amount of money on that in 6 months. They see what everybody else on the street was only looking at. And as a leader, that's what vision is. You're seeing that most of the time before the people that are working with you and alongside of you and partnering with you see it. They've looked at it. But see, part of your gifting is you see it. And now you've got to begin to paint the picture. And how well you do that will determine how fast you achieve that dream, if you ever achieve that dream, and how big it becomes and how scalable it is. So you need to have SMART goals. And what I mean by that is dreams are great, but without goals, they're just wishes. Goals translate vision into action. They make them do these things. You got to write this down. That's why I call it SMART goal. They're specific. A goal has to be specific, clear and unambiguous. Not, I want to lose some weight this year. No, I want to lose 40 pounds this year by November the 20th. Clear, unambiguous. I can measure that. I can measure how successful I am with that. I can measure how I'm failing with that, where I need to adjust. Second one, they need to be goals, need to be measurable. You can track progress. That means it's measurable. Third thing, achievable. Goals have to be achievable. In other words, they need to be realistic. And then you have to give the proper resources to make them realistic. Otherwise, it's fantasy. Goals should stretch you. They should make you wonder, can we do it? Not is it possible, but can I do it? In other words, so they're still achievable, they're realistic. They need to be relevant. In other words, the goals that you set need to be connected to the bigger mission. I achieved this goal. Well, when I achieve it, I found that I've moved that much closer towards fulfilling the vision of where we want to end up, what we ultimately want to accomplish, and what really matters to us. And then the T in that is they're time bound. In other words, goals need to have a deadline, because that drives focus. Deadlines drive focus. So without goals, without timelines, they're just nice ideas. They don't move the needle. They don't push your organization forward, and they don't challenge your people. Third thing I want to give you today, you need to learn how to involve your team more. See, leaders don't build great plans in isolation. When you involve your people, what's happening is you're building ownership, not just compliance. You may have a group of people that will do exactly what you tell them to do, but you have really put limitations on how fast you can get anywhere and what you can accomplish. But if you can involve your people, now you build ownership. Now when things get tough, that wasn't his idea. That was our idea. We made the decision. This was the right thing to do. We figure out how to overcome that challenge instead of criticizing somebody else about their idea. This was a bad idea to begin with. No, this was our idea. And so we're committed to it. See, a plan built in a vacuum often looks great on paper, but it falls apart in the real world. Your team knows the ground level realities. You tap into it. Like in our organization, you want to solve a customer problem, you need to find the person in your organization that is the closest to interacting with that customer up close and personal. They're going to be able to give you insight where you may have an idea in theory. They have insight because they're dealing with that and they're seeing it up close every day. Pull them into your circle. You know, what they're going to be able to give you in information, tactical information, could be a game changer for your organization. When people help shape the plan, they help fight for it, not against it. Every time we try to do something, I get pushback. Is it your idea? Is it only your plan? Is it your way or the highway? Or are you involving people into the process? Yes. Ultimately, you're going to pay for it. Ultimately, you're going to accept full responsibility for its success or failure. But are you including them in the process? That is why you hired them, wasn't it? They did something better than you could do. They did something you didn't have time to do. They had experience in areas maybe that you didn't. Expertise maybe that you're paying for and you need that advice. Why not take it? Why not take advantage of what you're already paying for? Fourth thing, you need to anticipate the challenges. See, planning isn't about imagining a perfect path. That's a fairy tale. It's about preparing for reality. That's what planning really is. Now ask questions like, what could derail us from this? What resources will we need when that happens? If I was our competitor, what would I do to put us out of business? What could I do better than what they do? You got to ask yourself questions. Jim Collins has some great management stuff, 2 decades old, some of his stuff now, but the principles live on. He says, great organizations confront the brutal facts. You can't control every obstacle, but you can control your response. Much like personally, I can't control what happens to me, but I can control what happens in me. And so you need to confront the facts instead of acting like they don't exist. Then at least you can begin to control your response to those kind of obstacles. And then the fifth thing would be, by making plans, I have to be willing to review and adjust. Why? Because none of us are perfect. And some of our learning comes through our mistakes. And our mistakes only come if we're willing to try. That's what innovation is. Innovation is not somebody had a great idea and then they executed on it flawlessly. It means they had an idea and they become innovative. They probably ran into a challenge, which is why nobody else had solved the problem. And they found a workaround. And it may have took 3 of those. And then they tweak that and it become better. And I don't know what that is for you, but you got to be willing to review and then adjust. A plan is like a living document. It's not a one-time event. I can't sit down today with a plan that we're going to follow that exact same plan 5 years from now. Why? Because 5 years from now it may look very different. The economy may look very different. The workforce may look very different. Everything, honestly, could look different. So that plan is much more than a one-time event. I need to look at that and check the progress on it on a regular basis. It's because it was a good idea, again, 2010. It might be a stale idea in 2025. You got to be honest about what's working and what's not. And you got to adjust. Here's the key, guys, without ego. Sometimes we're holding on to something that was successful a decade ago. The real reason we haven't let it go when everybody around us knows it's really not working, there's a better way, it's because it was our idea 10 years ago. It's what got the company to where it was at today. That all may be true, but it's not going to keep the company in existence. And it may not be the thing that keeps the company in the forefront a decade from now. That's being innovative. You need to be able to review and adjust your plan. And I want to challenge you to do this as a leader. Sit back and just take some time to reflect. Make some time, make it as important enough that it goes on your calendar like everything else. What would that look like? Maybe reflection time from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. or reflection time from, you're a late night person, from midnight to 1 a.m., whatever it is in your rhythm, however you flow, wherever you operate best. Pause and ask yourself, are your plans, literally, is your plan aligned with your mission and your core values? Some of you would be shocked if you really got honest with yourself. Like, I really don't even know why we're doing that, because that doesn't really line up with what we value or our mission. Ask yourself this: how often do you invite your team's input? I know you think you collaborate. You're a great collaborator. Look back over last week. How often did you invite anybody on your team into that input? Did you have a text, what do you think? Do you have an idea? What do you think about that? Or maybe you brought the group together and you just bounced something off of them. Do your plans create clarity, or do they just cause more questions? Again, you're going to answer these for yourself when you kind of get quiet and begin to have some self-reflection and awareness. Are you brave enough to pivot? Here's the question. Are you brave enough to pivot when the facts tell you to? I try to, and I've learned through enough mistakes that when we're going to try something that is brand new or maybe totally different than what we've ever done, just lay it out. We feel like this is the direction we're going to go, and we're going to try it. And we may try this for a specific period of time. It may not work. If it doesn't, we don't have so much pride to say, hey, that didn't work. We're going to change. We're not just going to milk something because it seems like maybe we have egg on our face. If we're going to be innovative, then we've got to be willing to be risk takers. Risk taking means you're probably going to miss as much as you hit. Listen, in baseball, you can hit 350 and end up in the Hall of Fame. Think about that, which means that 2/3 of the time you're striking out. But that 1/3 of the time, it's so good, it puts you that much above everybody else because you're still swinging, and it can put you in a Hall of Fame caliber. Same way with companies. You have to be willing to take the risk, and you have to be willing to take the shots. You have to be willing to fall, fail, spend money, lose money, and then get back up. That's innovation. That's what keeps you in the front of the pack. And guys, we need to be leading by example. A leader is one who knows the way, he goes the way, and he shows the way. So he's modeling it. People remember far more what they see you do than what they ever hear you say. And what they hear you say, when it matches what they see you do, man, that's a double win, because they know he really believes this and he's walking it out himself. So I need to step it up. I need to do the same. Guys, planning isn't just a process. It's about leadership integrity. When your team sees you plan diligently, adjust humbly, execute relentlessly, they learn to do the same thing. We teach what we allow. We reward what we want to see repeated. What are you modeling? I'd close it with this. When you plan with purpose, execute with excellence, you create a culture that thrives and a future that inspires. See, as leaders, we're not just building a quarterly target or a quarterly goal. Guys, we're really building a legacy, a culture, a place where people know they belong, a place where people believe they can win. So I want you to take your vision seriously. Set some real goals. Bring your team in. Prepare for setbacks. And above all that, just stay adaptable. Learn to pivot and move. Sometimes we're just a little bit off. We just adjust that just a little bit. it'll bring you right back on course. So ask yourself, where in your organization could better planning create more clarity and momentum? These will be in the show notes. How might involving more voices in your planning process strengthen your culture? What part of your plan needs adjustment today? Today, not just the next quarter, not just at the next strategic meeting, not just at the annual meeting or retreat. Today. Listen to this. The Bible for me is a book, and it's a manual that helps me conduct myself personally, because I need all the help I can get. But it also has timeless principles that were reflected in my core values of how I want to manage the people that's on my team and the business that I feel like that I'm here to steward. And this is a powerful verse out of this book in Proverbs, because it talks about intentional planning and vision-driven leadership. And it says this: the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. Sounds like profits in our terms. But everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. In other words, there's not a shortcut to success. It's a commitment to a path, to a vision, to a set of values that constantly keeps you on the road, that 1 mile of road. Because remember, for every 1 mile of road, there's 2 miles of ditch. That's what keeps you there. So I want to challenge you. Take the time to plan with purpose, involve your people, build intentionally, because true success doesn't come by accident. It truly comes by design. Remember, your culture is only as healthy as the leader. We'll see you next time on the Culture-Neer Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on Culture-Neer, where every episode is a step forward on your leadership journey. We hope today's conversation sparked new insights and added real value to your life, empowering you to lead with greater strength and purpose. If you enjoyed what you heard, please connect with us. Follow our Facebook and Instagram pages, subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content, and give us a rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Your support helps us grow our community and continue delivering conversations that matter. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep striving, keep leading, and keep inspiring.